How's it going, everybody? This is Tim,
And Paul.
and this is the Buns Thighs Fitness Podcast with guest starring Burn Academy's Paul Blackburn. And we are going to be talking about some fitness topics today. We might get a little off topic if, you'll forgive us, but we always round back to it. First, Paul, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience in case they didn't catch the last episode?
Yeah. My name is Paul Blackburn, and I am the owner and creator of Burn Academy, and it is basically an online app that people can download for $15 a month, and it gives them 3 to 6 day workouts and corrective exercise stuff. I've got a bodybuilding certification, corrective exercise certification, and I'm a glute specialist certified trainer, and I've been training for over 10 years, probably I think 11 and a half at this point almost. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Alrighty. And I've known Paul for many years, and we actually used to train together. He's an awesome dude, and he's very knowledgeable. So, for those of you that don't know, Buns and Thighs podcast is a personal trainer and company production. That is my gym's name, PT&C Gym, over in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Um, Paul is over in Florida, if I'm allowed to say that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. And we're going to be talking about a few things. One, muscle confusion. What is muscle confusion? What is the title of this podcast is what is the best way to work out in order to get fit? And that is a very hot controversial topic. And like, sorry about the clickbaitiness, but it is a big source of argument on the internet and a bunch of different people saying that no, this is the best, this rep range is the best, this resting is the best, half reps only, like it's all, or even 3 by 12, and they're even boiling it down to different exercises, squats versus leg lifts, or all these different things, and we're gonna clear that up for you. It's actually a very simple solution, and it kind of makes everything else kind of seem silly. So, Paul, that's one of the topics. We're also going to have other topics, and we'll introduce them later. Paul, what is your take, your just initial take on that conversational topic?
Or the best workout.
Yes, to get
So
fit. Like I know that's a very broad statement. Um, would you like to scope it down to anything specific, or would you like to just uh, talk towards? There's a better word for that, but talk towards the point itself.
yeah, the best workout for you is one that is, you know, geared towards your goals. So what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And it could be anything from I'm trying to run a race or a 5K, I'm trying to just get stronger, or longevity, or, you want to do an obstacle course, something like that. So the best workout for you just honestly depends on what you are shooting for. And there are multiple different ways to work out, and there are obviously different muscle fibers that everybody has. We all have fast twitch and slow twitch, and each muscle, like your chest, is comprised of predominantly fast twitch and a little bit less slow twitch. Your arms are very like 50-50. Your back is kind of 50-50. And depending on if you're trying to grow, you got to target the fast twitch. If you're trying to get your endurance for like a race, you want to really target your slow twitch, and your aerobic training needs to be up there, versus like if you're trying to just build muscle for a competition, or you're just trying to get stronger and look better, then anaerobic stuff is going to be better for you, and targeting the fast twitch muscle fibers are going to be better for you. So the best workout is just whatever goals you have, that's what you are going to try, and you're gonna work out either mostly fast twitch or work on your slow twitch.
What if their only goal was to have a sculpted body and look fit and feel healthy?
Then I would target your fast twitch muscle fibers, because the more muscle you have, the more fat you burn, because muscle is fat burning tissue. Fat is not going to burn any calories. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn just sitting there naturally, and your metabolism will go up. So if you are trying to look better, the more muscle you have, the better you're going to look and feel hormonally and just physically. So um, if you are wanting to lean down, you don't necessarily have to do more cardio. I mean, it is recommended to do at least a little bit of that cardio just to kind of help with the blood flow and your heart strength, because the like we said last time, the more you do cardio, the better, physically fit your heart is, the better your recovery between sets are, and so you'll be able to push yourself harder in the gym. And so I would just say lift weights as if you're trying to bodybuild. And it doesn't have to, it could be relatively heavy. It doesn't actually have to be really heavy weights, but you want to stress the muscles to just about exhaustion, if not to exhaustion, in order to get that change.
One of the best things about this podcast is that me and Paul don't train together. We don't we don't compare notes. We actually come up with ideas, and then we come together and see if we agree. And most of the time we do. But I do want to premise this, Paul. If you ever do hear me say something that you disagree with, I definitely want you to, I want to hear your take on it. And this is just for the audience. We are mature debaters. There's no heated anything in any of this. So, and actually, we good personal trainers learn from each other. If you respect the other personal trainer and you're like, hey, if you disagree, I would love to hear it because I may be wrong. Science is an enigma, all that.
Yeah.
So I agree with everything he said. I have not a different take, but a different point that like I said, the topic of this title is so broad that we could really go for days inside this title. And what I'd like to address is the amount of camps that always say they're the best, and they're trying to convince everyone and their mother that their way is the best way. CrossFit, powerlifting, just the running people, cyclers, martial arts, even down to 3 by 12 rep range, reps and sets. That's the best way to build muscle. 5 by 5, that's the best way to build muscle and strength. 1 by 6, 4 by 20, that's the bodybuilder camp. Even the higher rep range, 25, even 30, even 15 is a little bit more towards the bodybuilder. That's more Paul's area?
So
Is
eight
that
to
correct?
12. 8 to 12 is a lot of bodybuilding and hypertrophy
So
work.
hypertrophy work.
Yeah, leaning out and competitiveness would be like 15 to 25 reps.
Gotcha. That's what, like, whenever you're trying to go like really far into um the endurance side of muscle, the higher rep range. I've also getting a little off topic, but I'll ring back to my point. Anything past 30 reps, it turns into cardio. If you're doing 35, 40, 50, 100 reps of something, it's no longer a muscle building signal. You'll get endurance based towards it, but you're not going to gain mass. And that's just a little sprinkle of, the more you know. Anyways, back to it. All these camps are saying that they're the best way to do it. And really, my biggest thing is muscle confusion. When when a client comes to me or a consultation comes to me and they're like, hey, so this is what I've been doing for years. I want to lose this last 20 pounds. I really can't. I'm strong as an ox, but I still got the gut. I still got all this. And we narrow it down to it's probably a few things. Inflammation, your TVA is probably poofed out. You had that last bit of fat because your metabolism is used to the stuff that you're doing. You are used to being that strong, doing these lifts, and you've been doing it for a decade. So instead of doing the 5 by 5 that you have read on Men's Magazine is the best way for men to lift, let's actually go over to the 4 by 20 and go there for a second. You're going to have to take a hit on pride. You're going to have to go down in weight a ton. And you're going to learn that even the bar 20 times for a man like you that's never lifted more than 8 times is going to suck. And
Oh yeah.
I don't care who you are. If you squat anything 20 times, you're dying if you've never done it before. And it's entirely new and it's frustrating and it's hard at first when you've been working out for a decade and you think you're good at it and then you throw yourself into something that you're not. That's exactly where you need to be, because your body is not used to that. And that's what it's been looking for to get rid of that last 20 pounds is that fresh new stimulus. And if whenever someone says this is the best way to do it, it's not. All of it's correct. All of it is appropriate if it's appropriate for the goal. If the goal is to lose weight, be fit, and have a well-rounded, healthy body, that includes your cardiovascular system. That includes your endurance and the way mitochondria oxidizes oxygen. That includes having a good amount of muscle. There's always a bad side effect to not, well, yeah, I will say there's always a bad side effect to going too deep down one rabbit hole. And I don't want to deter anyone away from fitness, but if you get too obsessive down one rabbit hole, there are a few things that you have to watch out for. For example, powerlifting. If you get too far on the fat side, there's chronic disease waiting for you. Bodybuilding. There are eating disorder and mental challenges that you have to really be either immune to or really be humble enough to know that it's part of the deal. And you have to learn to love yourself no matter what stage you're in. There is the strength category, lifting as much as possible. There is a danger factor. So there's a dark side to every one camp. But if you're just trying to be a healthy, fit human being, flitting between each camp, it gives you the best of each one of those camps, gives you a stimulus for about a month to 3 months, and then you move on to the next one. And that's what I like to emphasize with most of my weight loss clients is try everything. Stay in one place for a little bit, get used to it, get good at it, and then move on to the next one before you get too excited about it so that you can start the process all over again.
Now, I think there is one thing that would be probably good to clear up is what do you mean by muscle confusion? So what is like your definition of it? Because I know that you mentioned it earlier and that it's good for people who are in a set way or in a set routine. What do you mean by muscle confusion to them?
My definition of muscle confusion, and this may not be the world's, I maybe, but my definition of muscle confusion is doing it one way for a while and then letting your body get used to that and then doing it drastically opposite. So like doing a 5x5 set for a month, like your entire workout 5x5, which appropriately. And then there may be a few variants inside your workout for that month. And then the next month going straight to 4x20 for most of the other ones. Instead of compound lifts, doing concentrated lifts, where it's splayed out between a lot of different muscles in one lift. That's a compound lift. Concentrated is a smaller amount of muscles per lift. And then you do more lifts to cover the same amount of muscle range. That would be a different stimulus in what I call muscle confusion. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so like another example that I would have is, I was doing probably like leg extensions, leg curls, leg press, and then calf raises, and then the adductor abductor. I got stuck on that for about a month and a half, 2 months. And then there was a point in time where I was just like, you know what, screw it, I need to do something different. And then I did 100 lunges, just body weight, and then I did about 100 leg extensions, 100 leg curls, and then that was it. And I was way more sore the next few days than I was when I got used to the leg extensions, leg curls, leg press, calf raises, adductor, abductor kind of stuff. So just switching it up, every now and then is that kind of confusion for your muscles because it's not used to, we're doing 100, lunges now. Oh, okay, that's different. And then when you do it right, you're going to be sore, and you can just do those 3 exercises and be in extreme pain for the next 3 days if you're just not used to it. So that's kind of like the muscle confusion example that I would like to give, because it's good to stick to something for a minimum of a month or 2.
Yeah.
You could do up to 3 months,
and then your body starts to adapt.
Right. And once your muscles start to adapt, you're no longer really working out. You're just you're maintaining. So you need to stimulate the muscle and innervate the muscle fibers either differently each other month or each workout cycle, whatever your little mesocycle, which is like within a or macro cycle, which is within a mesocycle. And like a macrocycle would be like 2-3 months. A mesocycle is like a year.
That's something I want to talk about this podcast is carb cycling. That's a hot topic that not a lot of people know about, and it is cool as fuck. Wow.
Yeah.
Can I say fuck on this? Yes, I can.
Carb cycling is good, and so is calorie cycling. And that's another thing that I
Yeah,
like to talk about with a bunch of people is because they'll understand calorie cycling more than carb cycling,
yeah.
but
Before we
and
get to
they're
that,
different. Yeah.
so you made me doubt myself for a second. I was like, you were like, so what do you call muscle confusion? I was like, wait, wait, what? Did I mess
Oh,
up? So,
it wasn't
uh,
supposed to be a trick
I,
question.
I just want to make sure we agree on the muscle confusion topic. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Doing something totally different that you're not necessarily used to doing, and throwing something different in there. So like if you're used to
Yeah.
doing like 4x10, maybe doing a set of 100 lunges and then maybe like 5 sets of 10, or maybe German volume training, which is 10 sets of 10, a little bit differently. That's a little bit of muscle confusion because it's not something you're already used to or adapted to.
Right. And there's also different levels of muscle confusion. There, you could do 1 month of bench press, squat, row, weighted sit up, and then you could do incline bench press, front squat, uh, pull up, and hanging leg lift. And those are very similar exercises, but it's just a slight variation different. There's also that's like just a 1 degree difference on muscle confusion, just when you're chasing a slight different stimulus, or you could do the stark opposite and do completely different everything, different rep ranges, different style of workout entirely. So it really depends on how long you've been doing it and how proficient you are in knowing when to do the when to implement muscle confusion. If you are a novice and you're trying to figure this all out and you're trying to build a workout, stark difference. That would probably be your best bet. But what you don't want to do is lose the mental skill of the workouts that you've gotten really good at. So come back to the workouts that you've gotten good at in about 2 to 3 months, and make sure that you sprinkle in some practice even during the months that you've moved on from the ones that you like. Practice the ones that you like still. So like if you move on from squat to deadlift and you're doing squat 1 month and then you're doing deadlift the next month, make sure that you keep your mobility for squat. Use squat as your warm up for deadlift. Now I'm not saying put a 315 pound weight on your back and that's your warm up. I'm talking go over and do some squats on the grass or on the whatever your gym has for the warm up area, and warm up your thighs, warm up your hips, warm up everything. Make sure that you have that external rotation and you are practicing that skill that you're going to come back to, because you don't want to come back in 3 months and you have to learn squat all over again. And you have to waste 2 weeks in trial and error, and you found out your ankles are pronating again, or you know you lost the things that you gained. So keep those things in your Batman utility belt. Just change your focus on the next one, so that it's the primary driver of your stimulus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And another quick thing is like with muscle confusion, you don't want to change it up too quick too often. You want to get your body to adapt to a stimulus. So maybe say you want to get your chest stronger, so you do bench press. Well, you're going to need to repeat it for a certain amount of weeks and then stop, because if you just do it once and then you kind of just do the exercise and then like for the next 4 weeks you do something totally different for your chest each time, you're not adapted enough to get stronger at the bench press. So that's why it's like for about a month or two, you want to make sure you're kind of doing the exercises, maybe changing like a rep here and there, or at least increasing the weight, so that you know that you're progressing. And then eventually you can still incorporate a bench press, but maybe like do it as a warm up, or maybe do it at the end, or maybe incorporate it some other way when you do something else. So like if you usually start with, incline bench press, maybe after a month or so do incline dumbbell flies and completely stress the muscle in a little bit different manner, and you'll see a huge difference. You'll feel it the next day for sure.
what I would suggest is, it depends on how new you are. You can throw a dumbbell at somebody that has never worked out before, and they'll gain muscle in their biceps. Like you can do anything to anybody that just started, and that's actually how incompetent trainers get about 6 months of service out of somebody, or
Yeah.
payment, because they pull a random thing offline or online, and they're like, okay, this is your workout, and then they do that. It works for a little bit, and then either pain or stop working starts. And but if you're completely new, I would say practice whatever you like so you gain that adherence and you gain that proficiency for about 3 months. Now, after you've worked out for a few years, that's when you may need to start changing every about 4 weeks. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Um, and this is kind of like what you were just talking about new guys and or new people who are working out. Did you hear about the 3 second study?
No.
So they had over the course of I forgot how many weeks necessarily. They had people in the study do a bicep curl for 3 seconds. Their strength improved 15% over the month.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
So in the course of a study, they just had participants do bicep curls for 3 seconds.
Okay.
Over the course of the month, their strength improved 15%
Did they do that every day?
every day.
Oh, okay. So they
So
they they leaned on the routine part of it with the what's it called? Frequency.
yeah, and not only that, it's just something that they either weren't used to or they kept up with doing, and you started changing your muscle fibers, and eventually for 3 seconds, if you can lift something super super heavy for 3 seconds, and even if it's 1 rep, that 3 seconds is a lot of work, then you're going to see some progress, and that's going to be better than nothing. So that's also going to say that even if you just did 1 rep of something every single day for a month, you will see improvement. So
I once had a client bring home a 85-pound dumbbell, and he had to carry it everywhere he went inside his house. So, so he was excited about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." And then after the first week, he's like, "I am so sore, I can barely move." I'm like,
Mhm.
"I can tell you've been doing it." After the first week, I'm like, "Hey, so have you been doing it?" He's like, not really." I was like, "I can tell." And by the second week, he actually did it, and he saw a major difference by the fourth week from when he started it. So I started the month at when he actually started it. He had gained a shit ton of muscle from just doing that plus our workouts. He carried that dumbbell from his living room to the bathroom to the kitchen to like everywhere he went. And it was by his bed in the morning. He picked it up, went and brought it to the bathroom, did his stuff. Every time he walked somewhere, he had to carry that thing. And I told him he had to carry it in different spots on him.
Mm.
And it he by the end of the month, he was ready for a 95. And yeah, and
Mm.
he is still training with me today, and I think that was one of the most effective little like hacks that I've ever actually called a hack and or I've ever heard of being called a hack and it actually works. Carry something around with you, apply frequency so it's every day. Your routine, your CNS, your central nervous system will start to realize that this is a part of your life now, and you need that extra strength in order to do this daily activity that wasn't there before and is now part of your routine. And you will adapt to and wrap yourself around that routine. And I, I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, it's one of the funniest things I've ever done as a trainer.
Yeah, that's pretty cruel. And I thought I was awesome for torturing people as a living, but that's even torturing them when they're not with you.
Yeah. Personal trainers. We're not what's it called sadists. Yeah, no.
Yeah, right. Now, like another end of the spectrum is like if someone has one of your clients has lost like 20 pounds, if they were to put on a 20-pound vest and walk around with that, they can truly see the difference of how it feels losing the 20 pounds. And then hopefully that motivates them to continue working out and losing more weight. So, like if you had a weight loss challenge for 8 weeks and someone lost the 20 pounds, have them put on the vest and walk around the gym and work out. And then when they leave, take off the vest, and then they'll be like, wow, it feels so much better to have that 20 pounds off of my chest, off my back. And yeah, that really is a good eye opener for a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like shocking to them. They're like, "This is how much was on me." Yeah. So, let's pop in with creatine.
Yeah.
You were
So
saying
creatine.
so before we started the podcast, we started talking about it a little bit, and I was asking about what Paul thought between HCl and monohydrate. So creatine HCl and creatine monohydrate. I have some thoughts on creatine as a whole, but the difference between the two, I know an adverse side effect of one, and it may be hearsay, and so I want to clear that up with Paul because he's done more research on it in that part of the spectrum. But I just like first, what's your thoughts on creatine?
So creatine is probably the best legal supplement to take that will definitely yield results. So creatine monohydrate has been studied more than creatine HCl. And so there's a lot more scientific data on creatine monohydrate. And as far as I understand, creatine monohydrate, so there's two ways to start it. You can just start it normally and take 3 to 5 grams every single day and wait for your muscles to become saturated with extra creatine, which the reason you're taking the extra creatine and it is stored in your muscle. And if you feel like you're gaining a little bit of water weight, it's stored in the muscle and it's not extra fat, it's not any of that. And it is a little molecule that helps ADP become ATP again. So ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is what is used for a contraction. So whenever you do a bicep curl, ATP is utilized, and then one of the molecules, a phosphate molecule, disappears, and then it becomes, instead of ATP, ADP, and then a creatine phosphate molecule comes back in to regenerate ADP to ATP so that you can keep going. With a readily available source built up in the muscle, you've got more creatine phosphate molecules to be able to regenerate the ATP a lot faster. And so you should be able to go longer and do an extra, even rep or two or three, depending on what weight you're using. And eventually you will see about a 33% increase in strength after taking the normal dose of 3 to 5 grams every single day. Now, there is also another way of starting creatine. It's called a loading phase, and that's where you take up to about 20 grams for like 3 to 5 days and then drop it down to about 3 to 5, um, and then keep going because you're just trying to you saturate your muscles as fast as you can and get going. But that can also lead to a lot of gastrointestinal distress
Yeah.
and bloating, so it's pretty tough
I've heard
to.
that was part of the adverse side effects that I was talking about. I've heard that there's some controversy on whether the loading phase is actually as effective as people think it is, or worth the adverse side effects of doing it. And people I would advise just starting with the 5 grams
Yeah,
and just doing the waiting.
yeah, I don't suggest the loading phase. A lot of people like to do it and can. Some people can handle it. I didn't start that way. I just did it 3 to 5 grams because I didn't want anything crazy to happen. And you want to make sure that you're drinking lots of water
Yeah,
the entire time. And a lot of clients who did start creatine did see a huge improvement in strength and muscle growth. And so I think the data showed it was about 33% increase. So yeah, the creatine monohydrate is the most studied. It is the best weightlifting besides protein and caffeine. Those are really the only three things you ever need if you're working out. Everything else, like BCAAs, maybe EAAs, not necessarily worthless, but you're not getting what you're really truly paying for. So
and what it's advertised to give you,
right,
especially if you're
and
eating meat.
right. And just HCl is kind of like, I feel like a waste because again, it's not the most studied and it doesn't feel like it yields a lot of results as creatine monohydrate. So that's a little bit with creatine.
So I would like to add on the benefits of creatine. They have done studies in the past 7 to 5 years, so fairly recent as far as studies go, on the effect of creatine on arthritis, dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and any type of mental disorder with mental decline, memory loss, anything that has to do with brain function deteriorating or starting to get slower, and even autism. And what they found was there was a 30% increase in being back to normal, and actually, one, preventing dementia when it was hereditary and reversing it. And that's the biggest one that got all the pizzazz. If I don't care who you are, from a young age to until you die, creatine is the number one supplement that should be a household supplement, no matter if you're working out or not. Right now, it's associated with, because it's been marketed this way, with just gaining muscle and trying to get jacked. I've had a personal trainer who was the manager of the personal trainers of Lifetime. I was like, hey, so do you take creatine? He's like, oh no, I don't want to get swole. I'm like, definitely not the only case for creatine. Creatine is a mental health supplement. It helps with your heart, it helps with organ health, it helps with literally almost everything in your body that uses ATP in the first place. And it actually is, it makes you sharper. Just because it helps with brain health as well. It the amount of studies that are going into this, it's fairly new, so it's not being marketed this way, but you're going to see in the next 10 years it's going to be grasped and taken and marketed in an entirely different way, towards children, towards women, towards elderly, towards everybody, not just bodybuilders and strength competitors.
Yeah, and another quick thing about the muscle. So I've actually been training a 99-year-old at here in Florida, and we're all surprised because he can still bicep curl 20s, he can shoulder press 15s, and it's insane to see this guy walk without a cane. He doesn't need glasses. He has hearing aids, but other than that, he's like a healthy 99-year-old guy. He was a physician. He served in World War II, and he attributes his health to his diet, which was low calorie and Mediterranean style. And he was an amateur boxer and kept up with working out. And so and another guy who recently passed away not too long ago because of he had like a form of multiple sclerosis, and he wasn't supposed to be walking at his age at all, but because he had played soccer and worked out when he was younger, he was still able to function at least okay. So the benefits of working out and building muscle and even adding creatine to that to help continue to build muscle, if not just living a healthy lifestyle, working out and building muscle is the like best thing you could ever do for your body and your longevity.
It's marketed so differently though. Like everyone says that one, gaining muscle will make you fat. It's marketed as gaining muscle will make you tight. Like you won't be flexible anymore. You won't be able to reach your back. If you work out in full range of motion, you're actually going to gain mobility and flexibility. The difference between flexibility and mobility to the viewers is flexibility is how long can your muscles stretch, and mobility is how long are your muscles already. So can you go into a full range of motion and then stretch further? That stretch further part is flexibility. If you have full range of motion and your muscles are as long as they should be, that's mobility. And if you work out in full range of motion, you are actually going to gain mobility. I have fixed people where they have a limit. They're all tight and curled over and hunched, all that. They can't raise their hands past their ears. They can't do anything after training with them. Full mobility, it's like they took yoga for 10 years. And the way that gaining muscle is marketed toward like adversely, I think it's changing slightly lately, but not good enough. Gaining muscle is like the fix all to so many different things. It'll even like stop 95% of all chronic diseases, because the more muscle
I
you
think even
have, the higher your
Alzheimer's even too.
metabolism. Yeah, it just like with the creatine. And one more thing about creatine, I'll say that in a second, but just like the creatine, and for the same reasons, muscle will fix a lot of different mental issues as well, because the more muscle you have, just the better your body functions as a whole. One more thing about creatine. I had a 70, she was above 75, but wasn't 80 yet. So let's say 78, 78-year-old woman that I was training, and her hands had so much arthritis that her two fingers like were stuck like this, and she couldn't lift her middle fingers past here, and she did everything with these two fingers, and then her thumbs her entire hands hurt, and she had full body arthritis. I started her on creatine, and within 2 weeks, she had full mobility again, and she could use all of her hands, like full mobility of her hands. Creatine, recently, this is all recent studies, so that it's not. If you look them up right now, they're there, but they're not pushed right now because it kind of goes against a lot of what people have said about creatine.
If
So
you can find those studies, you should post them in the description or anything.
I will. The creatine is one of the fix-alls, as well as muscle gain. Basically, creatine will help you gain muscle, and both of them together will just help in so many different ways.
Definitely.
You mentioned carb cycling and calorie cycling. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I'll know a lot more about calorie cycling, and I've forgot a little bit about carb cycling because you try to do it when you're competing,
Yeah.
and I obviously like so carb cycling. Really, it's just like you kind of lower your carbs as much as you can, and you're having a lot more fat, and then you kind of flip flop it, and you spike in carbs, which also helps in vascularity. Like I was starving myself of carbs, and then at some point I raced it up as fast as I raised it up drastically for a day, and the amount of veins that I had popping out of my arm were insane. It was absolutely beautiful.
You know, Brian,
Um,
everyone loves a vascular man.
oh yeah, yeah. Like you just squeeze your fist, and your entire forearm looks like a road map. It's beautiful. So that's kind of like carb cycling is like not eating very many and then spiking the carbs and then going back down and then spiking the carbs. Calorie cycling though is something that is more of a like a not a lifestyle habit, but it's definitely something that you should, I think, incorporate all the time, especially if you are trying to diet or if you're trying to, lose weight so that you don't crater your metabolism. So calorie cycling is, you're eating in a deficit of 300 to 500 calories, and then for like 3 to 4 days, and then on the fourth or fifth day, you spike up another 300 to 500 calories, and then the next day you go back down another 300 to 500, and then you do that for 3 to 4 days, and then you spike it up again. So that's kind of calorie cycling to make sure that because the less you eat, the less the lower your metabolism goes, and then you spike your metabolism when you eat because your metabolism's breaking or helping your digestion and whatnot as well. So what I would suggest to help make sure that you don't start to just gain weight because you're trying to eat less and less and less is to spike the amount of calories you have for at least a day every fourth or fifth day.
So when I tell my clients about when they're first starting, and they're not a bodybuilder level, they're just starting, and it's phase two of how I'm helping them with nutrition. Phase one is eating the amount of protein that they should eat, and we talked about that last podcast. And phase two for me, once they're able to eat that amount of protein and they've gotten used to it, then we match their carbs with the amount of energy that they're expending. But it's not just the immediate stuff. It's also we have to think about, are they building muscle that day? What's the passive extra energy that they're going to need? Are they do they have a high performance job? Are they a laborer in their job? Like all these different things. And if they are highly sedentary outside of working out, then I tell them, okay, think of carb use as a isosceles triangle, where the highest amount of carbs that you should eat is during the day that you work out. And let's say that they're working out twice a week with me. The highest amount of carbs that they should eat is when they're working out, then a medium amount the next day because they're going to basically be doing nothing. This is someone that we know that you shouldn't just sit after a workout, but some clients they just aren't going to. They're going to just sit after a workout for the next 3 days until the next session. So if they're gonna be doing a low amount of activity, keep their protein the same. So protein compared to their lean body weight, that's the way that I tell people to do it every single day, so that the materials are there no matter what. And then carbs depicting on how much energy is being used. So it takes about 3 days to gain muscle from a workout. High amount of carbs first day, about 75% of the same on the second day, about 50% on the third day, and then start it all over again on the day of the workout. What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, I think that that's fine. Like when you're inactive, you don't need to be eating a lot of calories, and then when you're active, you need to have some calories because that's kind of very similar to the circadian rhythm and eating based on your circadian rhythm, but it's also based on your activity level. So if you're going to be inactive those days. Don't have as many carbs. You just don't need the calories. You don't need the sugar. You don't need to fuel the muscles and pump them with, glucose. The days you do work out, you're going to be utilizing a lot more calories and a lot more glucose out of the muscles. So that's when you want to eat and spike your calories. So I mean, I totally agree with that. And then it also depends on the time of day as well when you want to spike your carbs. So nutrient timing is a crucial thing to understand if you want to maximize the efficiency of your food. uh, you eat like a high fat breakfast, and then before and after your workout you have a lot of carbs, and then when you're done with your workout, the later it gets, you start to wean down the carbs and increase the fat just a little bit more. And that is the best way to kind of fuel the workout and fuel the muscles. And again, if you're working out in the morning or afternoon, that's like probably the best. But if you have to work out in the evening just because of your work schedule and the time that you can train with a trainer, then you want to have a little bit of carbs afterwards just to refuel, but you don't want to spike it too much. I forgot the exact ratio of, carbs to protein to all that stuff that you're supposed to have immediately right after, because there's a limit of glycogen that your body can metabolize at a time. And if you overload it, you're going to either store it or it's just going to kind of not be that beneficial for you.
Right. A lot of people, I say a lot of people, some people, they, as soon as they're done working out, they just gorge themselves. And that is definitely not a good idea. I don't want to glaze over what you said. I kind of want to break it down a little bit. You said high fat in the morning, sandwich the carbs around the workout, and actually during as well if they have some kind of carbohydrate drink like UCAN. My gym sells UCAN. It's a complex carbohydrate powder that is a highly refined complex carb, and it the reason why you want to, and I'm basically elaborating what you said about the sandwiching the carbs. You want to be full of glycogen and glucose before you start the workout so that you can perform during the workout. You want to keep that going at a good rate of blood sugar during the workout so you don't get tired. And then after the workout, you want to basically kickstart the muscle building. Is that basically the reasoning behind the carb sandwiching?
Yeah, because the amount of carbs that you're giving yourself is going to be the immediate energy source that your body wants to pull from.
Right.
And so that's why when you give yourself the sugar, your body will be able to utilize it a lot more and better than if you are trying to just use fat for energy, because the glucose or your sugar is the most readily available and the best fast acting energy source that your body wants to pull from, and that's just naturally what it wants to pull from to begin with anyway. So that's why, if you're going to lift heavy, you're going to want a lot of carbs.
And so, what's your reason? So, can you elaborate about the tail ends of the day? So, the beginning and the end, where it's a high fat, would you say no carb, and
Yeah.
probably high
The
protein in the beginning, and about half of
Yeah,
that?
because I think it was the MI40, like the Ben Pekulski gym, that was also talking a long time ago. Whenever I was competing, about a high fat, high protein breakfast is going to help your blood sugar stabilize for the rest of the day, as well as kickstart the metabolism of fat. And so when you have a high fat breakfast, your body's already now metabolizing that for energy, because that's what you've first given it after a fast, and so your body's now in that kind of fat burning mindset. And then before your workout, you give it as much energy, readily available energy, that it can just chew through right then and there. And then since you work out really hard and you're lifting heavy, that's when you want all those carbs. And then your muscles become very insulin sensitive because now you've just expended a ton of glucose and a lot of sugar. And so now you want to replenish your muscles of that depleted glycogen with more carbs so that it can absorb it a lot easier, whether that be liquid carbs or just something quick after your workout, like even a few gummy bears, gummy worms, whatever. That's kind of like high in sugar, no fat after your workout, because that's going to start stalling and slowing down the process of getting the sugar to your muscles. And then so that's why you want a lot of carbs, like up to maybe 2 grams of fat if you can, and then lots of protein, because then that'll, get to your muscles faster because they're willing to soak up as much glycogen and protein as they can. And then later in the day, when you're going to be inactive, your body doesn't need carbs. It doesn't need the energy. You're just going to be probably sitting down watching TV, you're doing some work or whatever before you go into bed. So you really don't need that kind of energy. So that's why you want to eat your carbs around your workout and kind of taper that down.
So this kind of reflects the energy systems a lot, and I say kind of, it does reflect the energy systems a lot, and just like how the more muscle you have, the more metabolism you have. That's a reflection. They're hand in hand. They have to do with exactly each other. Can I give? I want to give an example of a daily food, consumption, and you let me know if this coincides with what you said. So cottage cheese in the morning, no fruit, no anything else. Maybe cottage cheese. It's high protein, high fat, and maybe some eggs on the side with the yolk. Also protein and fat. And then go a couple hours. Then you have a high protein or a high carbohydrate meal. Let's say potatoes, sweet potatoes. This is just an example. I know you're not just gonna eat sweet potatoes for a meal, but sweet potatoes with some cinnamon, but no butter because we're trying to keep it just carbohydrates. And then you work out. Would you have protein with that second meal before you work out?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say sweet potatoes and some chicken legs, or not chicken legs, but chicken breast.
Or even white rice. Anything also like less complex, because you're about to break it down and need it like readily available quickly. So complex carbs might not be the best before.
What about
Maybe a
2 hours
little.
beforehand?
Yeah, that could be fine. Because I'm trying to think. I've got so the book I've got right now pulled up even is the nutrient timing book. I forgot exact. Let me let's see, what page am I on? 83. So let me just try to get to where I'm trying to see what. So the nutrient timing book by John Ivy, PhD, and Robert Portman, PhD, is what I recommend. And maintaining the anabolic state is what you want to eat afterwards. So eating beforehand is going to be, yeah, like the simple carbs, simple sugars that you can readily available use. And so the complex, if you're going to eat it maybe 2 hours beforehand, that could be fine, because if that's what you have, and if it's that long before you work out, that's good. I remember in college it was like maybe between 175 to like 150 to 175 calories before you work out by an hour and a half, and then like the closer you get, the less calories you want. The farther away, the more calories you want. And yeah, so complex carbs, the farther out would help for sure.
So let's actually simplify it to chicken and rice, or turkey and rice, so that we can reduce the fat content even more. Ground turkey and rice before the workout. You work out. You can or and some other type of sustenance inside the workout, and then after the workout, what would you recommend?
So after the workout, definitely something to spike your blood sugar. I'll give you just a quick excerpt out of the book. So basically, the study found that, let's see, the I forgot exactly what study it is, by Blom and colleagues. So their study found that providing a high carbohydrate supplement immediately after exercise and continuing supplementation at 2 hours and again at 4 hours after exercise maintained a high blood insulin level and a rapid rate of muscle glycogen synthesis for up to 6 hours, which really helps with muscle growth. And then Rasmussen and colleagues studied the effect of consuming a carbohydrate protein drink at 1 hour and again at 3 hours after a bout of resistance exercise. And when the carbohydrate protein drink was consumed at 1 hour, there was a sharp rise in insulin, which returned to the resting values within 1 hour. The researchers also found that protein synthesis only increased during the time when insulin was elevated. And when a second serving of the carbohydrate supplement was given at 3 hours post exercise, blood insulin rose once again, and protein synthesis was stimulated back to its peak levels. Basically, saying that if you are constantly feeding yourself those carbs after your workout, you're spiking the protein synthesis, which is helping the recovery of your muscles and growth of your muscles. So you want all those carbs afterwards as well to help stimulate the muscle growth continually for even hours after you're done working out.
So you definitely want the complex carbs afterwards.
More simple because you want to spike your insulin levels, and so the complex carbs are more fiber, and so it takes longer to break down. And then so the white bread or just rice, easily something that can be quickly turned into sugar is something that you're looking for after your workout.
So this is a little bit of where I would actually not disagree, but I would interject where if you were to eat a small amount of complex carbs, dropped about 3 hours apart. Let's say that they have to work out in the morning, and then let's say every about 3 hours, because it takes 2 to 4 hours to digest for complex carbs to be readily available for the body. I would say simple carbs right after the workout, and then for the rest of the night, up until about 4 hours before they go to bed. Let's say they have sweet potato fries or oatmeal, something that would continue the not low level, but medium level glycogen level or blood sugar level in their body. And then 4 hours before they go to bed, if they were still hungry, then going towards the fat content and no carbs. What's
Yeah, if
your
you're
what's your
still
opinion on that?
um if you are on a high carb, low fat diet, and that's what you needed to eat to continue filling up the macros that you need and the calories, bringing up the calories you need, then that's fine. I just think that the simple sugars are what you need to continually spike the insulin after your workout to complete the protein synthesis hours on end is what is needed. And then the complex carbs, like a little bit on, like maybe 4 hours, 5 hours later, is fine because then, it's a steady rate, a slow rate of keeping the blood sugar stable. If you're getting too hungry at night, even if it's like 2 hours before bed, don't eat.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe have like a protein shake instead because that's fast digesting because it's just liquid and it's not going to sit in your stomach for very long. So that's what I would recommend. But anywhere but at 4 hours definitely before bed, I wouldn't be eating just for the sake of gaining weight. And intermittent fasting is something I continually tell people that is super super beneficial for them. And if you can stop eating, 4 hours before bed and then get 8 hours of sleep, that's a solid 12-12
Hmm.
bare minimum of what would be considered intermittent fasting.
Okay. So the reason why I was asking is because I have a lot of I have a couple different clients that they have different dietary needs. Like I have a few diabetics. I have a few so they have to go low carb, high fat. I have a few people who they just work better on higher carb and lower fat. And I'm trying to get I'm still in the process of getting because it's individualized per person, no matter what category they're in. And so different approaches are always welcome. And so I'm definitely going to take your approach and apply it to two of my clients and see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, good. Because it's all based on insulin levels and maintaining the protein synthesis after you're done working out to keep that muscle repair going.
I know we got a little hairy on the like what what I wanted to do was portray for the audience what a simple day of eating would look like. Can you tell me what you would eat on a day?
Yeah, so for breakfast, I usually have 6 eggs. I usually have, out of the 6 eggs, two yolks, so two full eggs, and then the other four are just egg whites, and that's it. I'll add a little bit of salt and a little bit of cheese for the extra fat, so that my blood sugar stays constant for the most of the day, especially if I have too much like carbs after. For lunch, right now I'm having like rice, roast, uh, potatoes, peas, carrots, onions. And it's just like a lunch, and then a protein shake immediately right after. And then kind of like for dinner, I have a smoothie of triple mixed berries, um, protein powder, and a little bit of the chocolate milk. And that's mostly what I'm eating now.
Okay,
Yeah, so not much, honestly.
nice.
Yeah.
So I'm at a pretty good fat percentage myself, and I would like to just say what I eat. I actually don't eat until about maybe 2 p.m. and then I have some sort of meat and carbohydrate. Like it could be meat and rice, meat and potato, meat and bread. And I always make sure that there's peppers, greens, a little bit of onion, mushrooms. I try to do a wide profile of vegetables, and I basically do the big two meal. I do it before my workout, and then I do it after my workout. But that first one is my biggest meal. And then it's about half of the content of around the same kind of food afterwards. But my snack, it's more of like a snack quality, but it definitely fills me up. So cottage cheese, um, with pickles, any kind of filler that will fill me up and is low calorie, and another meat and lower carb on the second half of the workout, and then I'm actually good for the day. And that's usually I work out at around 4, so I eat at around 2, I work out at around 4, and then I eat at around mm, I get done working out around 5:30, maybe 5, and then I eat at 6, and then I usually don't go to bed until about midnight. Wake up at 8 and start my day all over again. And so there's definitely different. This is towards the audience. There's definitely different approaches, and sometimes different things work for different body types and different, also towards different workouts. But just like with the other camps, there is no, in my opinion, best way to do it. A lot of people are trying to figure out the absolute best way that's cookie cutter for everybody. Now, there are better ways. So there are some, there are some diets out there that if you followed them, you're going to be in trouble after about 6 months. But I would say that what Paul is saying is very interesting. I've never tried it that way, and I would like to try it myself actually, and definitely give you back a report on that.
Yeah, if I could find a way to send that book to you or whatever, I would highly recommend reading it. There
I have
are,
Audible, so you can just give me the title, and I'll use all of my credits on it.
yeah, it's literally just called Nutrient Timing by who was it again? Let's see.
I'll put it in my notes right now.
Yeah, so it's called Nutrient Timing
Okay,
or the Future of Sports Nutrition, Nutrient Timing, and then John Ivy, PhD, and Robert Portman, PhD.
nice.
Yeah. Such a great book. Teaches you so much about when to eat and how much to eat when, and it gives you precise grams and everything. So, and it tells you like how many grams of carbs or glucose you can have after your workout before it's too much, because there's a certain amount that you can have that is great to help spike your insulin, but then too much is detrimental for all of that.
Yeah. People need to understand that too much of anything is a bad thing. Too much protein, like neoglucogenesis, happens and it just turns into carbs, and then
Mhm.
extra carbs turn into fat. So like they, a lot of people they learn the mathematical equation and the secret Krabby Patty formula, and they just like religiously dive into it, and they rabbit hole into it and like speculative, and then they forget all about the adaptive gene and like the fact that everything is individualized, and they live by it, and then they start arguing with people on the
Yeah.
internet. All right, so this kind of flew by today. We've been at it for 58 minutes. Is there anything else to the audience you'd like to say, or we can extend if you have another topic you want to talk about?
No, um, nothing off the top of my head right now.
Okay. So, thank you everybody for listening. My name is Tim. This is Paul. He owns Burn Academy, and I own PT&C Gym. That's personal trainer and company.com. And this is Buns and Thighs, and we'll see you next time.
Woo.